Hello, my soul brothers and soul sister. I am Ron Smith, and this is the Ron Smith Investigate Show, where we separate from real from fake to fact or fiction and give you the winner's edge. And sometimes we're able to change your water into wine. Today's guest, we have Mr. Casares Simpson. How you doing, Casares?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Good, good. We're going to continue our conversation, and this is episode 7, The Talk. One of the things that I know for sure, especially in the Black community, there are some subjects that we don't talk about a lot. And today we're going to talk about money. We had this conversation, which, I enjoyed, and I probably kept you out of the house a long time talking about money.
No problem.
Would you share with us? And you had 3 questions that you asked me. And I think the questions that you asked are really fundamental to what everyone else who's starting off in business will want to know, or starting off with their own personal finance. And in order to overcome the lack of financial literacy, there's some basic things. And you asked me some basic questions, and I'd like to get into it. Question number 1 was,
well, first question was how to build credit.
And how you build credit.
Yes,
one of the things, if you're taking notes, you need to know where you stand. And as they say, numbers don't lie. You need to find out what your credit score is.
Yes, sir.
There is you can get your credit a credit report each year free. Freecreditreport.com. I think creditcalmer.com.
Yes, sir.
Et cetera, et cetera. So basically, you need to know where you stand. There's TransUnion, Experian, and I'm missing one other, but I think of it in a minute. Each one of them sometimes give you a different score, but normally you go with your average. The credit scores start from 300, which is very poor, to almost none, to 800, 850, which is great credit.
Okay.
Now, to really get into answer your question, you have to understand, and what I got on my the monitor is that there are 6 words that is core to financial literacy: income, expense, assets, liability, cash, and flow.
Okay.
Income is pretty much the money that you earn or create, or the money basically that you get from a job.
Yes, sir.
Which is, duh, right? Expenses is pretty much, you look at your balance sheet, how much money coming in and how much actually money that you're spending each month on the necessities or your discretionary spending, or your donations, etc. I use the 40, 30, 20, 10 in order to explain those things. So the 40% of your income should be money that basically for the necessities, which is, whether mortgage or rent, food, clothing, those type things. The 30% is discretionary, which means, whether you travel, eating out is discretionary, even, vacations. Those are things that, they're not vital to life. The 40% are vital to life. 30% are discretionary. And the 20% is money that you should be saving or investing. And the 10% is what I call, I'm a believer in tithing. I'm an active member in my church.
Yes,
but
sir.
other people use charities and donations for that 10%.
Okay.
Each major company, that's the reason they create these foundations and trust, and they give away so much money. That's part of their donation part, what they giving back to, society, quote
Okay.
quote. So in order to know where you stand, you need to know how the money is coming in and how it's going out.
Gotcha.
So create a budget, which means that,
Okay, yeah.
your housing expense, your food expense, everything that you're spending, because part of that, what you want to build is assets and eliminate some of your liabilities. And the part of that is the cash flow part of that.
Okay.
As you heard, cash is king.
Right.
You should keep a certain amount of cash on you for, just for anything that comes up. But cash has a flow. Cash flows in and cash flows out. And that's coming that income and expense part of it. And that's the first thing that you have to control. You have to see where your money is going to understand where the holes are.
Okay.
So my first thing is that besides getting your credit report, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in a second, you have to have your budget under control. Where is my money going? And is it going where it needs to go? And if there's some leaks, it's almost like if I overspend in my discretionary money, I should know where it went. I shouldn't, this year I want to go to the Super Bowl. When I get to the Super Bowl, then I find out things cost a little more than I had anticipated.
Right.
Now, I could go ahead and splurge, or I could pull back and understand that basically, since I went to, Phoenix to go to the Super Bowl, and I had allotted this amount of money for spending, I should not go over that.
Okay.
And if I do, will that it will affect everything else that I do for that particular time period. And so that's one of the things that we have to look at. So if you find that basically you're on the south side of 600 credit score, that
Right.
means that you need to tighten up some things.
Okay.
One of the things I can suggest that you can do immediately, there's a app called selflender.com. So what selflender.com does is basically it sets up a savings account that you put from $25 to $50 or $75 in, whatever basically fits your budget at the time.
Right.
So what it does is start saying that basically you have, let's say, $500 worth of credit. And as you put into your account, it is adding that basically you are paying down on that account. So it appears that it's a loan, but actually it's a savings account. What's so unique about this is that it's reported to those credit industry, basically that you're establishing a line of credit without even after, it's one of those things like you have access to a credit card, but you're not really using the credit card.
Okay.
And you build a savings account. So selflender.com is one of the things right off the top of my head, because basically what these company does, TransUnion, Equifax, they report your financial well-being. And it's almost like your financial report card.
Okay.
And if you don't have one, which means that basically if you're just paying by cash, that means that if you want to get a large ticket item, you don't have any kind of history.
Right.
So basically what you are doing, you are establishing a positive credit history.
Okay.
Now, if you could pay everything in cash, then you don't have to worry about these credit reports and all this. But
right.
One of the things that I teach is that there's a thing called leverage. Leverage is basically when I want to buy that BMW, I can't pay cash for, $80,000, $95,000 for the car, but I do have a down payment. Therefore, that's what you call leverage. It's almost like when you buy a house. Some people might can pay, $350,000 for a home,
Right.
but most of us can't. Therefore, we have to put our 20% down. But in order to do that and get the effective credit rate that you won't pay too much for, is that you have to establish that like 650 and above in order for a financial institution to really take your situation serious. So basically, you have to have I recommend a savings account, a checking account, a debit card, and a credit card.
Okay.
Now, the whole thing about that is that what most people don't tell you about the credit card is that you can't use but 30% of what the max is on that. So basically, if you got a $1,000 credit card, you can't go over $300.
Okay.
Because that will put you in the red, which make another hit will deduct points off your credit score.
Okay.
And you can't make any late payments with your power, your whatever expenses that you have. You can't have any late payments because those things are reported back to these credit institutions. So that is what I recommended. How you start building your credit and start credit history.
Okay.
Any questions before we move on to number 2?
No, sir. Everything seemed to be answered. Yes, sir.
Okay.
No.
Casares, we're gonna take a break right quick, and then we come back. We're gonna get to question 2 and 3.
Yes, sir.
I can tell you my problems, meditating my silence. But I keep pushing my pen, rotating my stylus. Brokenness feeling like sin, now no breath, low dollar. Used to be left on red, now all the girls go holler. Now all the girls go follow. All the fake friends gon' pile up. I need peace to borrow, get that shit right back tomorrow. Somehow all the fans go bravo. Smile so much to hide my sorrows. Faith is shaky in vibrato. I can't hold a frown too long. I can't stay down too long. Look, running from pain, running from strain, running from things, running from schemes. I can't hold a frown too long. I can't stay down too long. Look, running from pain, running from strain, running from things, running from schemes. Couple things I know, couple things I show, couple things I don't. I can tell you my problems, I can tell you my sins, I can tell you my problems. I'm uncomfortable in my skin, I'm uncomfortable with my ends, I'm uncomfortable with my friends, I'm uncomfortable with my drinking, I'm uncomfortable with my thinking, I'm uncomfortable with my waist, I'm uncomfortable in this space, I'm uncomfortable on good days, I'm uncomfortable on bad days, I'm uncomfortable with my soul, I'm uncomfortable with my heart, I'm uncomfortable with myself, I'm uncomfortable with my heart, I'm uncomfortable with my thoughts, I'm uncomfortable with my feelings, and sadly I'm uncomfortable with healing. I can't hold a frown too long. I can't stay down too long. Look, running from pain, running from strain, running from things, running from schemes. I can't hold a frown too long. I can't stay down too long. Look, running from pain, running from strain, running from things, running from schemes.
All right, welcome back to the Ron Smith Investigate Show, where we are talking to Mr. Casares Simpson, and we are just chopping it up, basically, talking about financial literacy. And one of the things that I really want to share before we move on is that one thing that we don't do enough is, number one, and this comes from the book, The Richest Man in Babylon. I don't know if you heard that before,
Okay.
but the key to that book is that you pay yourself first. Unfortunately, we live in America where we call Uncle Sam the IRS. He don't trust us enough to pay him his percentage. So basically, he take his percentage off the top. You know, I'm still trying to figure out what FICA got to do with me, but that's another question for another time. But but you have to build in a savings plan from the top, and there's a lot of ways that you can do it. You can do it from you can have your employer take it out of your account, or you can have if you have a banking system, they can take a certain amount of money out of your check, which means basically it's almost like it's almost tax time. Next week is the 18th, and everybody's up in arms about it. And basically, we get excited that Uncle Sam giving us our part of our money back, which I kind of find that kind of weird, but that's just me. But speaking of taxes, the best thing you could do is break even. That they don't owe you nothing, and you don't owe them nothing. But that's the secret to the whole game is. But that's we'll talk about that at a later date.
Okay.
Set up a system automatically that you're paying money into yourself. And that's the reason why I mentioned the selflender.com, because basically it take money out of your checking account that appears that you're paying back a loan, but basically you're paying into a system by yourself. So at the end of the year, whatever money that you have in that account, it shows that basically you're repaid that loan.
Okay.
So you take that money what you have, and then that's what you start. It'd be the nest egg for the next thing that you want to do, which means start putting it in another account where you can that you're not going to touch. One of the things that most advisors tell you that you need an emergency fund, which means that 6 months of your finances, which means that basically if your car breaks down, the hot water heater goes out, the stove goes out, et cetera, you have money. Or let's say you do go to Vegas on a trip, and then you find out basically all the flight cancellations and all this stuff. So now instead of the flight, and then you need to get back home, you have to rent a car. So all that kind of expensive that you have to do, and you have to deal with the airlines later. But right now you need to get out of Vegas. So you need an account to have those type of emergencies come up. So pay yourself first. You got to watch your spending. And one of the things that most people, when I talk to them, debt does not disappear. It ain't gonna disappear. So when you have a clear, concise plan on how you deal with it, you'll feel better about yourself, because then you have a strategic plan about how you're going to attack that. As a friend of mine told me that wishing is not a strategy and hope is not a tactic. You just have to get in there and get ugly and deal with those issues. And you're on the right track because the first thing that normally, if you wouldn't hear, I would be talking about the money mindset, because that is the first thing that you have to be intentional,
right,
with where and take control of your money. It appears to us sometimes that it seems like everybody's in our pocket except us. And the reason why is that, first of all, we don't pay ourselves first, which means that basically we pay ourselves last, and we pay ourselves what's left over. And basically, if somebody else has a plan for your money, that means that they're going to take theirs off the top and just leave you what's left, if anything's left. So you have to be more intentional, have a plan, and be committed. Okay. Sometimes that, that discretionary spending, you have to kind of narrow that, and maybe sometimes even eliminate some things, because delayed gratification is the key to your commitment. How committed are you? Okay. So let's get into your next question. What's your next question?
Well, my next question, you kind of touched on it in the first one, but how to make my money work for me instead of getting from expense to expense.
Okay. Tell me how do you see yourself in 5 years from now?
In 5 years from now,
Yeah. What financially? Give me the vision how you see yourself.
okay, well, I would like to be in a place where I am financially stable. Not necessarily, that I have everything that I need, but if I do need to go out and get something, I can. I don't have to cut something else out in order to cover for this or something like that. I just want to be, like I said, financially stable, to have enough to where things can be taken care of if they need to be taken care of right then and there.
Okay. Here's my first advice.
Okay.
What gets measured get done.
Okay.
What gets measured gets done. And what I mean by that is that 5 years from now, I want to have, let's say, let's say, I want to have $5,000 in my savings account. I want to have a rotating of $1,500 in my checking account, and I want to be able to have 6 months of my expenses being able to be taken care of.
Okay.
Reason why I said it has to be quantitatable for the simple fact that you got to know when you get there.
Right.
And you have to understand that basically, let's say by the end of the year, you have $500 here, and you have $800 in one of those other accounts, and then you have $300 in the account.
Okay.
And then you look back, say, back in April, I had, only maybe $100 here, $50 here, and maybe $1,000 over here. And my point is, now, let's say this time next year or the year after that, you see yourself growing into moving into that direction where you want to go. The tension that we have is to where we are now and where we want to go.
Right.
In order to ease that tension is being able to track and see the progression of where we want to go. When you see that, and that's your vision of where, the numbers, it's not really the numbers, it's the progression, knowing that I'm moving in the direction of where I want to go.
Okay.
That ease the tension.
Okay.
Does that?
Yes, sir. It makes sense, because if you see yourself, stepping forward, then you feel better about, getting to the place that you're supposed to be going, or that you want to see yourself at. I definitely understand what you're saying.
And see, oftentimes when you don't have a plan, that's when people get into, depression, because they don't see themselves moving. It's almost like they see themselves on a hamster wheel, because they don't see no traction. They get a lot of movement, but they don't give any kind of direction to that movement.
And I feel that's where I'm at. I'm on that hamster wheel.
So when you have a plan and you're moving towards that plan, that lessens the tension between where you are and where you need to go.
Okay.
And
yes,
that would give you the peace of mind that 10 years from now, I can go and do some other things with that seed that I'm planting right now. Now, one of the things that to make your money work, there's things that you have to learn how to invest in, and that might be another subject for another day, but I'm gonna mention some things to you.
Okay.
This country thrives on capitalism.
Yes, sir.
If you really look at the Constitution really was based on stakeholders and business, commerce.
Okay.
If you wasn't a stakeholder or you wasn't in business, and you kind of got left out
Okay.
overall. So, in order to actually make your money work for you, I gave you one secret: the leverage.
Yes, sir.
Because, and then I'm going to digress just for a second. Is that there's a thing called good debt and bad debt.
Okay.
Good debt is going into debt to build an asset. Bad debt is getting a debt that turns to a liability.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you a really, really off the cuff one that I just read about the other day. And I know you know the comedian and actor Eddie Murphy.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy got this painting called the Sugar Shack, and I don't know if you're familiar with Marvin Gaye.
Yes,
but
sir.
Marvin Gaye album, I Want You, show a picture of the Sugar Shack of people dancing in the club.
Right.
And this is gonna blow your mind because it blew my mind. The reproduction of this painting was auctioned off at $15.3 million. The reproduction.
Not the original.
Well, I'm gonna get to that. I'm gonna get to the original.
He said he.
That's
okay.
who has the original. Eddie Murphy.
Okay.
He purchased it from the Marvin Gaye estate.
Really?
Guess how much he paid for it?
Look, don't tell me it was less than the.
He paid $15,000 for it.
Are you serious?
Yes. So Jimmy Kimmel asked him during the interview, "Are you rich?" And you know what his answer was? I got this original painting. So,
wow. Okay.
So that is purchasing an asset.
An asset.
Which is anything that's I would say that's antique, that's going to increase in value. Right. Those are the things you need to look at.
Okay.
And I know that was a very far-fetched deal, but think about it. He had the foresight
to see, yeah, man.
And this was an estate sale, which means that basically they was auctioning off all Marvin's stuff for pennies on the dollar because they didn't realize what they had.
Wow.
So my point to you is that there are things outside right now. You hear every day while somebody bought a picture of the dogs playing cards on the the card table, and they ripped off that side and find the Mona Lisa on the back. Different things that you hear. But what I'm trying to really pique your imagination to, there's still things out there that you can invest in,
right?
That will increase in value. I'm not a big stock market guy.
Okay.
But if your company has a 401k plan, my suggestion to you is to max out the plan, and then I could talk to you later about some things that you can do, which basically one of the things is to do it a self-directed 401k or IRA.
Okay.
And you can actually get into real estate with a self-directed IRA, which means basically because this is a long-term investment.
Okay.
And you don't have to, since you're not actually acquiring that real estate, is not really charged against you. All right, so
okay,
being in business also is one of those things that basically you can make your money work for you.
Right.
I got some more things, but I want to make sure I get to your last question. So
yes,
your last question is?
Well, the last questions is and we talked about it before, but leaving a legacy and creating and, sustaining generational wealth, because I don't want this just for me. I want this for, everyone that comes after me.
Okay. Well, actually, if you purchase that Sugar Shack painting, you definitely leave a legacy. And if you have the copyright rights to "I Want You," you definitely leave a legacy. But here's the thing. One of the things that I suggest is real estate.
Okay.
Real estate is one of those things that in our past, in my grandfather, he had 40 something acres for his heirs.
Okay.
And I'm not going to get into that situation because it didn't turn out well, because they didn't know what they had,
Right.
and they kind of let it go away, for the simple fact that they moved from Alabama to Detroit, and they said, we ain't going back to Alabama. So, and Cleveland and other places. So nobody really took care of it.
Okay.
But owning a business, real estate, you have any kind of well, gold is another one, another asset to me that basically you can leave a legacy with, because gold will always maintain its value. Even it don't lower its value. It sets some precedents, but it don't go below a certain point.
Okay.
So insurance, that's one of the things that you can immediately do. And insurance is one of those things that most people don't use enough, because they only think about the death benefit of insurance.
Right.
But there's some life benefits of insurance, and there's some advantages to using term life, but there's even some more advantages with whole life.
Right.
And my thing is that one of the things that a friend of mine shared with me, and I did the research on, he called it using his personal banker.
Okay.
Which means that if you have a whole life policy to term, basically you can actually use some of the money and make a loan to yourself.
Okay.
And you can dictate the terms of the interest rate. Plus, you can dictate the terms whether you want to pay it back or not. Of course, you lose whatever you take out. Let's say if you had $1 million policy, and I suggest one of the things that my friend also shared with me, who's in the industry, is that we don't get enough. Normally, we settle for 10,000, 25,000, maybe up to $250,000, but we don't get enough insurance. And
okay,
because we only see the death benefit of it. Well, whether I'm going to leave my heirs, but there's a lot of life things that you can do with that. Let's say if you had $1 million policy and you want to take 100,000 out, even for your children's education, or you want to start a business, etc. So now you have a $900,000 policy. You can either pay that back throughout your lifetime, or you just end up with a $900,000 policy, and you're dealing with the issues that's at hand, whatever financial issues that is.
Okay.
And the beauty of that is that and we shared. I talked to you before.
Yes, sir.
Is that a loan is a debt, and the beauty of that is that you don't pay taxes on a debt.
That's right.
So basically, when we talking about $100,000, we're not talking about $850 after taxes.
No, that's that 100,000.
We actually talking about what it is. So those are some of the things that that I wanted to share with you.
Okay.
And basically, you got to create a plan, which means that basically you have to write down all your income, all your expenses, and see where your money is going.
Okay.
Once you see where your money is going, then you can start just saying, maybe I'm overspending in this area, and this is an area that I can start saving some money at to be more, make it a habit of saving, because now I've stopped the leaks. You know, people say I got more months than money at the end of the month. Well, there's a reason for that, because we hadn't put it a plan to understand what is financial literacy.
Okay.
So basically, having a plan, executing a plan, and being committed to the plan. And basically, one of the things that you and I want to talk about this a little bit more next week, is that how we base our decisions. You know, you would think that we base our decisions on intellect and reason, but we don't. We base our decisions on how we feel and how our emotions. And what we have to do is create a new system in our brain to move into a new direction. Because see, we can say basically, I wasn't taught this in school. My family didn't talk about this at home.
Right.
But the here and now is that we have to deal with this. You know, we are grown men, or we are grown women, and we can't say what we should have, could have, would have,
right?
Because that's yesterday. From this point forward, we have to move forward. So, is there anything else that you want to ask before we wrap this up?
No, sir. This has been very insightful. Like, I'm definitely gonna, get down to doing all of these things. Definitely, but taking it step by step, because it was a lot.
Yeah, I know you probably drinking from the fire hose, but hey, it starts with getting your immediate budget under control.
Yes, sir.
And from there, you have to sometimes you have to force savings in on yourself. Okay. But think about it. By the end of this year, you can look back and say, basically, I was better than I was last year. And basically, if you keep moving in that direction, then basically you'll lose the tension of the frustration of what happened to my money.
Okay. And that's all. That's where I want to get.
All right, brothers and sisters, I really appreciate your time that you spent with me. My time is up, and I thank you for yours.
All right.